When you think about what really pulls someone in and keeps them coming back for more, it's not just physical attraction. That wears off. It's not just how much time you spend with them or how often you say the right things. What truly makes someone addicted to your love is the emotional experience they associate with you. And not just any emotional experience, but contrast. If you want him to keep coming back to you like he's hooked, you need to become the emotional high he can't get anywhere else. Most people make the mistake of being too consistent in one emotional tone. They're either always nice, always available, always agreeable. And while those traits might seem desirable, they actually create a flat emotional experience. Think about a song that has the same note over and over. It becomes boring, predictable. No one listens to a track with no variation. What makes music moving is the change in tempo, the rise and fall, the contrast between the soft moments and the intense ones. Emotional contrast works the same way in relationships. When a man experiences different emotional flavors with you, when you can make him feel alive, calm, challenged, understood, and even a little off balance at times, you become unforgettable. Emotional contrast means knowing how to balance warmth with challenge. It's about being nurturing and compassionate in one moment and then playful and teasing in another. It's showing him that you're not just there to stroke his ego, but to stimulate his mind and push his growth. It's being someone who listens deeply, who sees the truth of who he is beneath the surface, while also being someone who calls out his excuses with love. This creates an emotional roller coaster that makes your presence deeply engaging and even addictive. Not in a manipulative way, but in a way that speaks directly to the parts of him that long to be fully awakened. The truth is, people don't get addicted to peace alone. They get addicted to meaning. They get addicted to excitement. They get addicted to the feeling that something or someone makes them feel more alive. That's what you need to tap into. When he's with you, does he feel seen in a way no one else sees him? Does he feel like he can drop the mask and just be real, but also that he can't get lazy or complacent around you? If you can hold both of those truths at the same time, safety and challenge, you become emotionally rare. And people chase rare things. You need to think of yourself as an experience, not just a person. People don't crave people. They crave the feelings those people give them. And if you want to make him crave you, your presence has to offer emotional richness that stands out from the rest of his life. If his days are filled with stress, monotony, or performance, then you become the space where he feels emotionally awakened. That doesn't mean being his emotional caretaker. It means being the person who brings variety, who brings energy, who brings something unpredictable that he starts to look forward to. Emotional contrast keeps him on his toes, not in a confusing or manipulative way, but in a way that makes him feel like he's continually discovering more of you. When he's with you, he shouldn't be able to go on autopilot. He shouldn't feel like he knows what every conversation is going to be. Your presence should stir something in him. That can be laughter, vulnerability, the feeling of being challenged, or the comfort of being known. Whatever it is, it has to come in waves, not as a flat line. Too much comfort without any emotional tension becomes dull. Too much tension without any comfort becomes exhausting. But the sweet spot, that's where people get hooked. That's the balance that leaves them replaying moments in their head long after the conversation is over. It's not about being dramatic or overly emotional. It's about creating an emotional landscape that feels real and alive. The contrast could be as simple as giving him your full attention in a moment of deep connection and then surprising him with a cheeky comment that makes him laugh. It could be being vulnerable about something meaningful to you and then shifting gears and challenging his perspective on something he's too sure about. That interplay keeps the dynamic fresh. It keeps it emotionally charged, and that emotional charge is what makes him associate your presence with something he needs to feel again. You want to be the person that doesn't just occupy his time, but stirs his spirit, someone who makes him feel more awake, more alive, more himself. That's what real addiction is built on. Not neediness, not control, but on emotional contrast that keeps drawing him back to the one place he feels everything. There's something irresistible about mystery. It's the quiet allure of the unknown, the question that never quite gets answered, the feeling that there's always something more to discover. When you're trying to create a lasting emotional pull with a man, this is one of the most powerful tools you have because people are naturally drawn to what they don't fully understand. If everything about you is on display too soon, the sense of excitement fades. The chase becomes dull. The story has already been told, and there's no reason to keep turning the page. But when you reveal yourself in layers piece by piece, it keeps him engaged. It keeps him wanting more. Most people think that the way to win someone over is through full transparency. Share everything. Be an open book. Lay all your cards on the table. And while honesty is essential in building trust, it's a mistake to confuse openness with overexposure. When you give everything away up front, it leaves nothing to the imagination. There's no tension, no curiosity, no sense of unfolding. And without that unfolding, it's hard to create emotional depth. The key is to give enough of yourself to spark connection while still holding enough back to keep him wondering what else is there. Mystery doesn't mean being cold or distant. It's not about playing games or being manipulative. It's about maintaining a sense of depth. It's about showing him that there's more to you than what he can access in the first few interactions. It's the art of pacing your self-disclosure so that he gets to earn each layer. That way, every conversation feels like a new chapter. Every time he sees a different side of you, it feels like a reward. That's the power of intrigue, and that's how you keep his attention not just for a moment, but for the long haul. When you're too eager to please or impress, you can end up giving too much too fast. You try to show him how interesting, funny, deep, or loving you are, all in one sitting. But what that does is compress all your emotional value into a single moment. He doesn't feel like there's a journey ahead. He doesn't feel like he has to invest in discovering who you are. Instead, it feels like everything is being served to him without any effort on his part, and people don't value what they don't work for. By revealing less in the beginning, you allow the relationship to breathe. You give space for the attraction to grow organically. You make him lean in. Mystery is also about contrast. If you're warm and affectionate, but also know when to pull back and take space for yourself, it sends a powerful signal. It says you have emotional self-control. It says you're not trying to glue yourself to anyone for validation. You know how to connect, but you also know how to disconnect when it serves your peace. That kind of balance is incredibly attractive. It keeps him on his toes, not in a way that's stressful, but in a way that keeps him engaged. He starts to realize that you're not predictable, and that unpredictability makes him pay closer attention. When you don't give him everything, it forces him to tune in. He listens more closely. He watches your body language. He starts to notice your subtleties because he's trying to put the pieces together. He becomes an active participant in the connection, not just a passive observer. You're no longer someone he's just spending time with. You become a puzzle he wants to solve, but not the kind of puzzle that's frustrating or impossible. You become the kind of puzzle that challenges him in just the right way, one that rewards effort with emotional richness, but only if he's willing to stay curious. Mystery also means that your identity isn't centered around him. He doesn't feel like your world revolves around the connection. He senses that there's more going on in your life, more dreams, more passions, more depth that he hasn't been invited into yet. That invitation isn't automatic. It has to be earned. And when he gets glimpses of what's behind the curtain, it makes those moments feel special. He starts to see that being close to you is a privilege, not an entitlement. That's what creates emotional intensity. That's what makes your presence stick in his mind. Keeping mystery alive isn't about withholding love or affection. It's about remembering that attraction is fueled by curiosity. It's about knowing that when he feels like there's still more to explore, he'll keep showing up. He'll keep reaching. He'll keep wondering what's next. And in that space of wondering, he becomes more and more emotionally invested. Because the more someone has to explore to understand you, the more value they assign to what they find. There is nothing more attractive than someone who is already deeply in love with their life. When you walk into a room and it's clear that you don't need anyone to validate your existence, that you're already living with purpose, passion, and presence, you automatically shift the dynamic. You stop being someone who is trying to win affection and instead become someone whose energy is being sought out. That's the foundation of real magnetism. And if you want him to be addicted to your love, you have to first make him addicted to the way you move through life, independently, confidently, and with joy that doesn't depend on his presence. Most people enter relationships looking for someone to complete them. It's a subtle but dangerous mindset. You think if you find the right person, everything will fall into place. You'll finally feel secure, happy, and whole. But that belief puts too much pressure on the relationship and gives the other person too much power. And the moment they sense that your happiness depends on them, the energy shifts. It goes from mutual attraction to emotional obligation. He stops being drawn to you and starts feeling responsible for your emotional state. That's when the excitement starts to die, because people aren't drawn to need, they're drawn to inspiration. When a man sees that you've created a life that excites you, that fulfills you, that gives you energy without relying on his presence, it makes him feel something powerful. It makes him want to be a part of that life, not because you need him, but because you've built something so compelling that he wants a front row seat. You're no longer the person chasing love. You're the one inviting it into a world that's already rich and vibrant. And that invitation is far more powerful when it's not based on need, but on desire. Living a magnetic life means investing in your passions. It means waking up each day and knowing what lights you up, whether that's your career, your creative pursuits, your fitness, your friendships, or your personal growth. When you're lit up from within, it shows. It's in the way you talk, the way you move, the way you interact with people. That kind of energy is contagious. It makes people want to be around you because being near you makes them feel more alive. You become a source of inspiration, not just companionship. A common mistake is making your romantic interest the center of your universe too quickly. You start reshaping your schedule around his. You start saying yes to things you don't really want to do just to be more available. You slowly lose touch with the things that made you feel grounded and happy before he entered the picture, and before you know it, your life becomes an extension of his. That's when the imbalance begins. That's when he starts pulling away, because the version of you he was attracted to is no longer the version showing up. He didn't fall for someone who waited around for him. He fell for someone who had her own thing going and made space for him in it, not the other way around. There's an undeniable power in being unavailable sometimes. Not out of manipulation, but because you're genuinely busy living. You're attending that class you've been wanting to take. You're going out with friends. You're traveling, learning, creating. You're not checking your phone every 5 minutes because your world doesn't pause when he's not around. That kind of independence isn't just attractive, it's addictive. It makes him respect you more. It makes him curious. He starts wondering what's going on in your world, what he's missing when he's not with you. And that curiosity turns into craving. Being magnetic means you don't bend your identity around who you're dating. You stay rooted in what matters to you, your values, your time, your dreams. It shows him that love doesn't mean losing yourself. It means expanding, becoming even more of who you are. And when a man sees that being with you doesn't limit your life but enhances it, he'll want to rise to meet you there because your energy pulls him forward. It calls him to level up, to match your drive and your joy, not because you're asking him to change, but because he's inspired to grow. When you build a life you're proud of, love becomes a bonus, not a lifeline. You stop trying to be chosen and start choosing who fits into your already amazing world. And that's when everything shifts, because you're no longer coming from a place of lack. You're radiating abundance. You're showing that you're the prize, not because you said it, but because you live it every single day. Attraction isn't built just on presence, it's built on investment. It's easy for someone to show up and give you attention, to send a few messages, to compliment you, to show up on the days they're feeling bored or in the mood for company. That's not hard. Anyone can do that. What separates someone who is temporarily interested from someone who is emotionally invested is the effort they're willing to make, the vulnerability they're prepared to show, and the consistency with which they treat you. And if you want someone to be addicted to your love, not just your presence, you have to draw a clear line between attention and emotional contribution. You don't reward the former, you reward the latter. A lot of people get stuck in patterns where they feel excited just because someone is showing up with energy. He compliments you, flirts with you, makes you feel seen for a moment, and you feel like something real is happening. But if that attention isn't backed by consistent action, if it doesn't come with deeper interest, with real questions, with time, with reliability, then it's just noise. What makes someone emotionally addicted to you isn't how good you make them feel when they're around. It's how you respond to what they're willing to give emotionally. It's how you create a standard that says, I'm only going deeper with you if you're showing me that you're willing to meet me there. Rewarding emotional investment means you don't get swept up by charm. You don't lean in just because he knows what to say. You lean in when you see courage, when you see consistency, when you see that he's not just attracted to you, but that he respects your emotional space, that he values your time, that he's showing up in a way that suggests he wants to be seen not just as a romantic option, but as someone who's ready to build something meaningful. Those are the moments that should move you. Those are the moments where you offer more of yourself, where you open up the next layer, where you make space for deeper connection. One of the most powerful things you can do in a connection is to show that you're selective with your emotional energy, that you don't give the deepest parts of yourself to someone just because they're available. You give it to someone who has proven they can hold it. And that proof doesn't come from words, it comes from actions. When a man realizes that he has to do more than show up once in a while, that he has to keep showing up, that he has to bring depth and intention, it activates a different part of him. He moves from passive enjoyment to active pursuit. And in that pursuit, the bond deepens. You become more addictive not when you're always available, not when you match every text immediately or agree to every plan on a whim, but when you subtly show that your connection is something that grows in proportion to effort. That emotional access is not something handed out freely, it's something earned. Not in a way that's cold or guarded, but in a way that shows self-respect. You're not shutting him out, you're showing him the door is open, but it takes more than a knock to be let in. It's also about how you react when someone isn't showing up with real energy. If someone disappears and then casually reappears with a sweet message or a flirty comment, the easiest thing to do is engage because it feels good in the moment. But what that teaches them is that your attention is easy to reclaim, that they don't have to offer consistency, that they can just dip in and out and you'll still be there. That creates a cycle of temporary highs and long-term disappointment. The only way to break that pattern is to make your emotional availability conditional, not on manipulation, but on behavior. When someone stops putting in real effort, you don't retaliate. You just adjust your level of engagement. You mirror their energy, and when they come back with more substance, you're ready to meet them there. This doesn't mean you play hard to get. It means you understand the value of your love. You know that real connection is built, not assumed. That the most powerful form of attraction isn't instant gratification, it's earned intimacy. When someone experiences that, when they know that being close to you feels different because they had to rise into it, they're no longer just enjoying your presence, they're invested in maintaining it. That investment becomes their emotional anchor. It's not just that they want you, they respect what it takes to be close to you, and that respect is what makes the connection last. There is something undeniably compelling about a person who embodies emotional confidence. That quiet, steady self-assurance, the kind that doesn't beg for love but welcomes it with grace, draws people in without trying. Emotional confidence is the difference between reacting and responding, between chasing validation and choosing connection, between being consumed by insecurity and standing grounded in your worth. If you want someone to not only desire you, but to feel magnetically pulled toward your energy, then cultivating this kind of inner power is non-negotiable. It's what makes you unforgettable in a world full of people constantly seeking attention but lacking substance. Emotional confidence is not about being cold or detached. It's not about pretending you don't care or building walls around your heart. In fact, it's the opposite. It's about being so comfortable with who you are that you can show up fully, express yourself honestly, and allow others to do the same without fear of losing your identity. It's knowing that your value doesn't rise or fall based on someone else's opinion or behavior. That no matter how the conversation goes, no matter whether someone stays or leaves, you're still whole, you're still enough. When you show up with that energy, it changes the dynamic immediately. People sense when they can't control how you feel about yourself. They sense when your emotions aren't easily shaken by external forces. And that doesn't make you hard to connect with. It makes you trustworthy because they know they're not walking into a dynamic that's fueled by insecurity. They're stepping into something rooted in clarity and calm. That steadiness is attractive. It offers emotional safety while still holding strong boundaries. And in a world full of emotional chaos, that calmness becomes intoxicating. What often derails attraction is anxiety, the need to constantly question where you stand, to seek reassurance, to overanalyze every word and action. That energy creates pressure. It makes the other person feel like they're being monitored instead of discovered. It shifts the relationship from an exploration to a performance. And people can't relax or feel inspired when they're in performance mode. But when you bring emotional confidence into a relationship, it removes the neediness from the equation. It shows the other person that you're not asking them to complete you. You're inviting them to join you. That distinction is subtle but incredibly powerful. Confidence also changes how you communicate. Instead of suppressing your needs out of fear that you'll scare someone away, you express them clearly and calmly. You're not waiting for someone to guess what you want. You know your standards, you know your limits, and you're not afraid to walk away from what doesn't meet them. But here's the key. You do it without drama. You don't need to raise your voice or make threats. You simply show that you're at peace with whatever outcome unfolds because you trust yourself to handle it. That kind of emotional detachment, rooted in self-respect, not in indifference, is what makes people take you seriously. It makes them value your time and energy because they know it's not handed out casually.